Ricci, tonight, the war in Ukraine continues into 2023.
The more it goes, the more other people, get tired of it. And for us, it doesn't end. It doesn't stop for a second.
We check in with the local Ukrainian community as the war approaches its one-year mark in February. Plus,
this is something I would say is a round of applause moment for all Ontarians.
Your pharmacist could now save you a trip to the doctor as new rules go into effect, allowing them to prescribe medications for common conditions. And
slides it again. Bedard talks right in.
Canada is moving on at the World Junior Championship after an overtime victory over Slovakia. Kyiv and cities around eastern Ukraine faced a third straight night of air raid sirens and Russian drone attacks. Meantime, Ukraine is now claiming responsibility for one of Russia's biggest setbacks yet. Sarah Larniuk has the latest.
So this attack actually happened overnight on New Year's Eve, but with news of it only surfacing today. And this happened in the occupied eastern area of Donetsk, just outside of the regional capital in a city called Makivka. Russian-installed officials there did confirm that HIMARS rockets destroyed what used to be a vocational school that was being used as barracks for recently mobilized Russian soldiers. Video today showed that building was completely leveled, nothing left there but a pile of rubble. But that video was paired with a video posted by the Ukrainian army on social media of HIMARS rockets being shot off at night, and they posted that video just with the comment, "Surprise." Now, this could be one of the Ukrainian army's most deadly attacks since the invasion this spring, but the casualty count for the attack is unclear at this time. The Russian Ministry of Defense told Russian media 63 soldiers died. However, a well-known Russian nationalist and former FSB agent, Igor Gorkin, has posted online that he believes the death toll will be in the hundreds, and that more closely matches what Ukrainian representatives have said, which is that they believe as many as 400 were killed in the attack. But all of those numbers remain unconfirmed at this time. Meanwhile, Russia has continued to attack Ukrainian cities really relentlessly since midday on New Year's Eve. They've attacked the capital and eastern regions with drones, and in the case of the recently liberated city of Kherson, with near relentless artillery fire. Sarah Larniuk, CBC News, London.
Loved ones here in Toronto are struggling to cope with the nerves and anxiety, especially as the war approaches its one-year mark in February. Chris Glover spent the day speaking with the Ukrainian community here in the GTA.
Kindergarten students, many of them refugees from the war in Ukraine, try to spread Christmas joy and Ukrainian culture.
It's been a bit of an emotional whirlwind for us, but we didn't anticipate the numbers. We didn't anticipate the length of this war. But we opened our arms, we opened our hearts.
The principal at St. Demetrius Catholic School in Etobicoke says they've added 6 new portables and hired more staff to support more than 140 Ukrainian refugees, now making up more than a third of the student body.
You leave feeling so fulfilled that you were able to help somebody. But also at the end of the day, you feel the heaviness of it all and you take it all in.
They're just telling me it's okay, don't cry, we lived a good life. It's okay if we die, you have to be fine, and I can't be fine.
Varvara Shmigalova was the first Ukrainian living here to help CBC Toronto document the heaviness of the war last February. What has changed for you in the last year?
I mean, everything, my entire life changed. Everything's different, right? Because that day that we first time met, that was legit the worst day of my life.
Her worst day stretching into her worst year. She's grateful, though, her parents and grandparents in Kyiv are still alive.
He doesn't answer, yeah. I can try again in just a second.
Terrified every time they don't answer. Relieved only temporarily when they do, something many Canadians can never fully understand.
The more it goes, the more other people, get tired of it. And for us, it doesn't end. It doesn't stop for a second. Since that first day we talked about, it never stopped for me.
Shmigalova now has the support of her cousin from Kyiv, who arrived in Toronto in April.
We all living in this circle of pain, so it's kind of hard.
Ukrainian officials say there's been a recent surge in attacks targeting civilians. Many fear it'll only get worse with Ukrainian Christmas this upcoming Saturday.
We think that keeping the traditions alive and celebrating life despite Russians trying to kill us, figuratively or physically, is very important.
As defiant as loved ones back home, they are determined to show Ukraine will survive no matter what. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
The OPP released details for the funeral service for one of its own. A private funeral service for Constable Greg Pierce-Challa will be held on Wednesday. The public can attend the procession from the funeral home to Sadlin Arena in Barrie, but the funeral itself is private. Local road closures will be in effect. There will be an option for the public to gather in Caledonia, where the officer worked, at Caledonia Lions Hall. Pierce-Challa was shot and killed while responding to a call near Brantford last week. Sick Kids Hospital has taken down 2 websites after detecting potential unusual activity. They pulled the websites for the Specialty Food Shop and the Infant and Early Mental Health Promotion Friday night. Sick Kids says it's working to bring the 2 websites back online. This is the latest disruption to Canada's largest pediatric hospital weeks after it was hit by a ransomware attack, which caused delayed lab and imaging results, knocked out phone lines, and shut down the staff payroll system. The cost of living continues to rise for everyone. But with many Ontario seniors on fixed incomes, they're often the hardest hit. As Ali Chiasson explains, some may be getting a bit of financial help this new year.
New year, same money pressures. Inflation affects everyone, but puts a particular segment of our population in a cost of living crisis. I'm talking about low-income seniors.
They are living right now in unprecedented challenges. House prices are going up, rents are going up, and those on a fixed income just can't afford to keep up with inflation right now.
There are at least 200,000 Ontario seniors in that vulnerable category.
They're making choices that are heartbreaking. They're making choices between things like food, heating, and medications. And nobody should ever be in the position for those to be having to decide to do an either or in those kinds of circumstances.
In Ontario, low-income seniors are eligible for Guaranteed Annual Income System payments, or GAINS as they're known. This year, the provincial government doubled the amount. Individuals can receive $166 a month. Couples can receive up to $332 a month. Diana Cable from advocacy organization CanAge says it's welcome news, although some will fall through the cracks.
The criteria for qualifying for the GAINS increase, you have to have been a resident for 10 years. So we will have people who maybe don't fall into that category. And the key thing here that we're very happy with at CanAge is that it is cash in the pocket. It's not just a tax credit.
Making it more accessible sooner. Certainly helpful when supermarket prices continue to soar into the new year. In 2022, the price of fresh vegetables went up almost 12%, fresh fruit by nearly 13%. Bread was up by about 15%.
I think that it's important to remember that this is a great start because it was astoundingly low before. The payments could range from $2.50 extra to $83 extra. Clearly doubling that is going to make a difference. Is it going to make enough of a difference? We're going to have to wait and see.
Seniors are eligible to apply for GAINS payments as of today. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Treating common ailments is going to get easier for some Ontarians. Pharmacists will be able to prescribe medications they haven't been able to before. And as Meg Roberts reports, some pharmacists say it's about time.
This pharmacist on the Danforth is preparing to treat 13 minor ailments which previously needed a doctor's appointment. Most of his patients are people living with an addiction. He says this is one less step to accessing health care.
They have pink eye. They have, we can tell it's a cold sore, right? But it's just lingering on because they don't have access to a doctor.
Now it can alleviate the discomfort in those minor complications as well as others. As of yesterday, pharmacies across Ontario can prescribe medication for common ailments.
This is something I would say it's a round of applause moment for all Ontarians.
The change is supposed to save Ontarians time and hassle. Instead of going to get a prescription note from the doctor, you can now go to a pharmacist who will assess the patient and prescribe the needed medication. Now, some pharmacies are offering walk-in services, while others are asking people to book an appointment. Pharmacies are encouraging people to call in advance. There are 13 medications that can be prescribed, which includes treatment for pink eye, cold sores, urinary tract infections, insect bites, and hemorrhoids. The province announced the new prescribing powers last July to reduce load on primary care physicians and emergency rooms. The Ontario College of Pharmacists crafted the list based on the ailment's minimal follow-up and exclusion of lab results. Although the college says people should expect a bit of a ramp-up period, some pharmacists say they're ready.
I'm actually excited. You know, as pharmacists, we go through a very tough, rigorous education. And finally, it's coming to fruition that we're able to use the skill sets that we attained from this education.
Ontario is the second last province in Canada to provide this service. Meg Roberts, CBC News, Toronto.
Meteorologist Colette Kennedy joins us now for a first look at the forecast. And Colette, I actually put my winter coat away the last couple of days.
Yeah, we are going to be seeing a few more days here, Talia, where the temperatures are definitely on the mild side. That means the system coming in is bringing rain. Now, the concern with that is when you've got ground that's already completely saturated because of all the snow we've had, then the mild temperatures melting most of that, and now you're adding additional rainfall amounts. We get into a rainfall warning because of the risk for some flooding here because there's just nowhere for it to go. And you're seeing those areas from the Niagara region stretching back through London, back to Sarnia and the Windsor areas. Some of these areas kind of hugging, especially along the north shore of Lake Erie, looking at 20 or up to 40 or more millimeters of rainfall coming, and that's tonight and most of it through the day tomorrow, but even some lingering showers into Wednesday as well. So you'll see this will develop in southwestern Ontario through the overnight hours, getting heavier into the early morning. Likely much of the commute in the GTA will be okay, but then as it continues to push through, we're going to find the heavy rain moving through this area too after some fog and drizzle tonight. So temperatures remain mild, but some problems possible too. 1 the low and the high tomorrow 5 degrees.
Thanks, Colette. Canada is off to the semifinals of the World Juniors Tournament after a dramatic finish in overtime. The team punched their ticket to the medal round with a 4-3 win over Slovakia. Dale Manukduk has more.
Slides in again.
Who else but Connor Bedard would score the game-winning goal?
He's been playing that way all tournaments. Yeah. He's out of this world, is he?
He's the best hockey player I've ever seen in my life.
Back up, it does, but it's now poked back out.
That game winner capped off a historic night that began at the 6-minute mark of the first period. With that, North Vancouver's Connor Bedard set multiple Canadian records, most career goals in tournament history, most points in tournament history, and the most points in a single tournament.
I think it's going to be interesting to see where he goes next. He's obviously dominating this tournament right now. I'm excited to see where he goes after this.
Bedard finished the game with 2 goals and an assist, and with the win, guaranteed Canada 2 more games and a chance to hunt down the all-time single tournament record of 31 points. 15-year NHL veteran Matthew Barnaby is excited to see him play in the pros.
You look at the guys that he caught, Jordan Eberle with goals, and Eric Lindros, who was my former roommate, Hall of Famer, to pass those guys and then do it in overtime. But elite talent, he has a knack for coming up big, and he just did it on the biggest stage.
For Bedard, the single tournament record of 31 points is still very far away, but he did have a 7-point game back on December 28th. He'll have a chance to add to his tally on Wednesday when Canada takes on the United States with a spot in the finals on the line. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
To the NFL now, and a terrifying moment at tonight's game between Buffalo and Cincinnati when a player collapsed and remains in critical condition. Medical personnel rushed onto the field to attend to Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin, giving him CPR before getting him to the hospital. The 24-year-old had just collided with another player, but got up and seemed to adjust his face mask before he fell back. His team tweeted out this shot afterwards, saying, "The thoughts and prayers of all Bills Mafia are supporting you." Welcome back. The price of buying a home in this province soared to unprecedented heights earlier this year, but then they started to fall. Many are wondering what will happen to the real estate market in 2023. Our provincial affairs reporter Mike Crawley looks into that.
The housing market here hasn't seen anything quite like this since the 1990s. A steep drop in prices, properties sitting unsold for weeks at a time, and sales volumes lower than they've been in a generation. Where will things go in the new year?
We think that the bulk of the correction that we've seen in Canada's and Ontario's and the GTA housing market is behind us.
The average sale price of homes in Ontario shot up 64% in just 2 years. Since March, prices have fallen about 20%. The pandemic-fueled frenzy of home buying is over.
Now we're in a very different environment. Demand has cooled off, prices have come down, and interest rates are higher.
There are some signals from the Bank of Canada suggesting it's pretty much done hiking interest rates, and that could ease the downward pressure on home prices in 2023.
On one hand, we've got more affordable home prices than we've seen in the last couple of years, to the point that you can actually put in a financing condition, you can put in an appraisal condition, and you might be the only bidder on the properties.
But on the other hand,
rising interest rates are causing buyers not be able to qualify for the mortgage amount that they need.
The shrinking number of buyers looking for a home is offset somewhat by a shrinking volume of properties on the market.
People don't want to list their homes when sales and prices are falling for obvious reasons. And so far that factor is sort of winning out and keeping supply relatively subdued.
There are also signs of a slowdown in the supply of new homes. Condo pre-construction sales have dropped, and that has the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation warning that projects could be delayed or even cancelled in the coming year. Factoring all of that in, real estate experts are predicting that home prices in Ontario will keep falling in the early part of 2023, but not a lot further than they already have. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto residents who own an empty home will soon be taxed for it. The city's vacant home tax comes into effect this year. The deadline for all property owners to declare whether their home is vacant or not is February 2nd. Missing that deadline could result in a $250 fine. The first taxes for having a vacant home will be billed in May. And there's a live look at our city skyline. Cloudy skies expected overnight, currently sitting at around 2 degrees. And Colette's back now with our extended forecast. I know you mentioned rain heading our way. How long is that expected to last?
Yeah, you know what? We have a few days here, Talia, where we've got some rain in the forecast. Kind of the heaviest amounts are really going to be through Tuesday. So that's what you have to look forward to as we go into tomorrow. And it's really a good time to make sure any storm drains aren't covered up with anything. They're not going to be clogged because the ground is saturated. We've had so much runoff and melt from the heavy snows and then the mild temperatures, and now we're adding rain on top of that. And so make sure your downspouts too are pushing out. They're down there, moving the water away from your house. The areas with the rainfall warnings I was showing you earlier in the show, from the Niagara region back to the Windsor area. So that's where we have the real flood risk. But all around the fog, that development tonight lingering into early tomorrow, temperatures remain above seasonal. The difference being they're going to reset a little bit as we get towards the end of the week. But even then, we're still talking about the temperatures being above seasonal, and that daytime highs will be above freezing. And at this time of year, Toronto, normal daytime high is -2, so it doesn't get above freezing. Now, looking how this all develops, moves in some of that heavier rain coming in through the overnight hours and into tomorrow morning. We see that developing, the commute looking pretty good, maybe the west end of the GTA getting some of it in the morning, then the heavy rain through midday, then we'll get some breaks, and then we'll get another punch. A few embedded thunderstorms not out of the question either because of how mild the temperatures are, and then getting that lift moving through. Even into Wednesday, look for some scattered showers still kind of hanging in there in the forecast. So the heaviest rains from southwestern Ontario along the north shore of Lake Erie into the Niagara region. That's where we could see some areas with even more than 35 or 40 millimeters. For Toronto, it's more of a 10 to 15 locally, maybe an area in that part of the GTA going up to about 20. Overnight tonight, watching those temperatures, around 1 for the overnight low for Toronto, but the temperature will actually be coming up towards Windsor, so they get to 5, maybe even 6 by 8 a.m. Now, high tomorrow, Still mild Wednesday with scattered showers. As it begins to come down, some of those showers begin to mix with a few light flurries, but we're talking about much lighter precipitation as we're getting towards Thursday, Talia.
Thanks, Colette.
The weather update is brought to you by Train. We test, so it runs. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
The OPP is reminding people not to drink and drive after several charges were laid on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
From 3 o'clock in the afternoon, New Year's Eve, to 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the 1st, the OPP laid 56 impaired driving charges across the province. 11 of those charges right here in the GTA.
New data reveals that 423 people died in motorized vehicles in 2022. Out of those, 353 people died in car crashes. Speeding and aggressive driving topped the list as the deadliest cause of accidents with 84. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Finally tonight, an Etobicoke woman and her husband welcomed their daughter into the world mere moments after midnight on New Year's Day. We visited mom and dad and one of the first GTA babies born in 2023.
What's the baby's name?
Brooke Jennifer
Faith Sador.
Yeah, Brooke was born at 12:04 at Etobicoke General Hospital. This is the best age. Yeah, quiet, peaceful, not moving around. Like, she did all the work. I was just there, you know, moral support.
It happened fairly quickly. I was expecting to do a normal delivery, but from when we found out that she wasn't doing well with contractions and we went in, it was about 30 minutes to an hour. And then she was out.
So I would say the one when you first see the baby and they're laying in the little basket and, you know, just like looking how small like everything is and how like precious and how gentle and stuff you have to be with them.
Oh, hearing the first cry, because there's a big curtain so I couldn't see her. But when she came out, I got to hear her cry, which was nice. Reassured me she was okay. Yeah. Everything was good. She was healthy. I was okay. The process was really smooth, and everyone at the hospital was really great. The staff was nice. So it was a good experience.
And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.